Yeah, first would like to start off with the biggest news of the week. Marcus and Valania Johnson welcomed a daughter into this world, Violet Victoria Johnson. Both mom and daughter are healthy and back home. And so congratulations to Coach Johnson and his wife on the birth of their daughter, and we're excited that our family has grown. Next, Tyler Beatty has been elevated to permanent captain. We actually did this last week, and I just screwed up and didn't announce it. But with Case being injured, he's still a captain, but we wanted to elevate somebody else to that position on the field. And Tyler, through his work ethic, leadership, and on-the-field play, was well deserving of that. And I think that obviously displayed in Saturday's performance. Just a tremendous performance, individual and team, by him, but obviously spearheaded by him, and congratulations to him and Harrison Mevis on being awarded with SEC recognition this week. And then the last thing would be injury update. You know, we send out a injury update every Thursday that's been very accurate and detailed. I think pretty much every questionable person's been 50-50 and showed up to the game, and we've made that decision. So we will do that again Thursday, and so because of that, I really don't have any more information about our injury report until Thursday. So with that, we'll talk about recap the game. Obviously, I thought it was a hard-fought game. Had a lot of momentum swings, particularly right there at the end of the first quarter where we threw the interception. They go on a 14-point scoring run. We were able to defend a fake field goal, and then the Hail Mary at the end of the half propelled us forward. I was very proud of the way the offense responded in the third quarter. I think we had 4 straight scoring drives. Obviously, we've got to clean up some penalty issues that took a touchdown off the board. But I was really proud of the way that they responded there in order to separate ourselves in that game. A couple of key, a fourth down extension and a third down extension. I thought both of those plays by our quarterback and by Toski Dove were really nice plays. And then Tyler Beatty's individual performance stands out. Harrison Mevis again proves to continue to be solid in the kicking game, and we look forward to that continuing. And then, defensively, it was really nice for Martez to get that interception at the end. Got to continue to improve our tackling and containment, and we will work to do that this week. Got a really good opportunity in front of us. Obviously, get a chance to play the number 1 team in the country. That's a great privilege and opportunity for our football team to compete. And obviously, they've got some really good talent on both sides. Very well coached. I think Kirby Smart has clearly established himself as one of the best coaches in college football, clearly one of the better coaches in our conference. Does an outstanding job both recruiting and player development. He's got a tremendous staff led with veteran coaches who have head coaching experience, like Will Muschamp as a special teams coordinator, Todd Monken, who was the head coach at Southern Miss before being an offensive coordinator in the NFL. Does a tremendous job on the offensive side of the ball. Got Matt Luke, who's a former head coach at Ole Miss. Again, does a tremendous job with that offensive line, their run game, and playing really well in the trenches. Defensive side of the ball, obviously, Coach Smart helps with that side, but Dan Lanning is a really good defensive coordinator right here from Kansas City. Does a tremendous job along with his co-defensive coordinator, Glenn Schumann, and then their defensive line coach, Trey Scott. Tremendous defensive line coach who's got his guys playing at a high level. So got some really good coaches, and then we could go on and on about their talent on each side of the ball, but it's a great combination and a real challenge, and look forward to our team having the opportunity to match that intensity, really practice our fundamentals, and focus on how well we can execute in a game like this, and see where we stack up. So with that, I'll open it up for questions.
Eli, I know you said after the game on Saturday you didn't know who you would start if Connor couldn't start next week. So given that, what changes in practice for Brady and Tyler this week, and when do you ultimately need to make that decision if Connor's not able to go?
Well, we won't know anything until we get through practice, where Connor's at. So I'm not not really adjusting anything I do, really. I mean, those guys have both been getting reps, and we had a plan that you saw unfold in front of you about how we were kind of going to orchestrate the game should something happen to Connor. So I think that plan would just stay in place. So I'm not stressed about it.
When you're playing, it was situational and playing Tyler versus Brady. Does that, I guess, leave on the table the possibility to play both in a game if Connor wasn't able to take the field?
Yeah, I mean, it could have been a situation where both of them would have played. Again, the last drive, 4-minute offense was more okay. You know, that was going to be more of what we were wanting to do, and maybe add the quarterback run element, which, you know, Brady actually does run the ball pretty well too. So had it been a different situation, you know, maybe Brady more comfortable in some of the other schemes that we have, we would have put him in the game. But with the schemes that we were running right there, I think that was the best player for those schemes.
You mentioned you were going to wait until you saw practice to sort of make the decision. So does that mean you expect Connor to at least try to practice this week?
Yeah, I'm going to talk about injury report on Thursday when we hand it out. So
when you're playing a defense like Georgia that, you know, is so good at creating pressure, you know, on quarterbacks and getting sacks, how does that impact kind of your decision making when, you know, possibly bringing back a guy that isn't at 100%, or, you know, how does that impact kind of how soon you bring someone back as they're recovered?
yeah, if you're deemed ready to play, you're ready to play. So that's not going to impact the decision at all. You know, I've been fortunate enough to coach for a while and have played some really good defenses, some really good fronts. Have gone against, you know, in 17 and 18, went against Clemson that had the 4 defensive linemen that were drafted. 3 of them, I believe, were in the first round. So, you know, have gone against some really good defenses before 2011 Alabama, 2010 Alabama. And these guys are right there. They're right there. They got some really good players, can really affect the quarterback, can really, you know, they do simulated pressure, so they get give the illusion of coming and bringing a lot of people and still play zone concepts behind it, which makes it difficult. They don't give you a lot of one-on-one matchups. So they do a really good job, and they're able to really get after the quarterback. I mean, if you look at the numbers, a lot of their sacks are 3-man and 4-man rushes, and that's pretty impressive. Not a lot of teams are able to do that. So it'll be a challenge to really the best way to slow down a pass rush is to run the football. And so you got to find ways to creatively and effectively run the football, and see if we can do that.
Eli, how have you seen Mankit develop since he's been on campus, just as a passer, all of his skills?
You know, I think it's been a growth process. Obviously, when you come in as a true freshman, I think we're really fortunate he came in the spring, so he had the time to, you know, see where he was lacking, struggle, fight through those struggles, really work. You know, he's one of these guys that works out all the time on his own, comes in, works on his weaknesses, and so he's continued to improve. I think, you know, obviously knowledge of the playbook and repetition of schemes aren't probably where you wish they would be. But I think that was what he would tell you, so he would be more comfortable. But, you know, I'm proud of the way he's attacked his opportunity.
Regardless of health, is multiple quarterbacks playing on a regular basis philosophically, is that something you prefer to avoid, or are there advantages, disadvantages?
We're going to play the best person that gives us a chance to win the game. So if we felt like multiple quarterbacks gave us a better chance to win the game, then we would do that. Up until this point, that hasn't been the case.
If Brady or Tyler were to play on Saturday, how ready are they to go against the #1 team in the country as their first career start? Is that something you think about at all?
Not really. I mean, because y'all are dealing in hypotheticals. Like we keep asking, which is fine. That's the job. But we keep asking hypothetical questions like, let's go practice Tuesday. I'll have a lot more answers after today's practice where we're at, and we'll practice Wednesday and see where we're at, and then we'll find out Thursday where the injury report is, and then we'll go. But I got a lot of worries. Like, I got to figure out how to block Jordan Davis and multiple other guys on that defensive front that if I spend a lot of time worrying about what ifs, we won't find the best way to block them.
Was Dominic Lovett healthy on Saturday?
Yes.
Okay.
And played.
Yeah, I know he played earlier.
Mm-hmm.
Just kind of playing time, just situational based on that game? Or?
Yeah, just based on practice and situational and opportunities. And, you know, I think we had a couple of plays scripted for him that I didn't get off the call sheet that, you know, I got to get called. And It moved him a little bit more to slot because of the injuries that we had. So it was a Barrett and Dominic at slot, and went with Barrett a couple more times in the second half just because of consistency and consistency in perimeter blocking. But I don't see that to be a trend or any negative. It just is what it was.
With a pretty competitive match coming up next week against South Carolina, does it impact your decision about who plays? Maybe if there is sort of questions.
Congratulations on the worldwide viral with Tyler Beatty. I have no idea about anything other than practice today. We're talking about practice today. I haven't thought about what somebody has to do in order to prepare. I haven't thought about that. I'm not worried about what's happening in 2 weeks or 3 weeks or 4 weeks or 10 weeks down the road. My focus is on how do I prepare our football team for today's practice, because that's all that we can control to execute what our plan is designed in order to beat the number one team in the country. We have to have a great practice. We have to control what we can control. We have to have great focus. We can't have penalties. We can't have negative yardage plays. We got to tackle and set contain. So those are the things I'm worried about. Not every week's going to have its own challenges. There'll be a whole nother set of problems on Sunday about next week's opponent.
And going up against the number one team,
Yeah.
just wondering what Sam was. Does anything change with your coaching philosophy? What do you tell players when you go into a game against the best team in the nation at the moment?
We're competitors, man. I mean, we're going to compete. Everybody wants to compete. You want to test yourself against the best. You got to just go cut it loose. You got to focus on the things that you can control, which is your preparation, your fundamentals, and your techniques. And you got to take your best shot. I mean, that's what you got to do. So nothing changes. We're not changing up who we are. I mean, that would show something that we don't believe what we're doing is working. We believe in what we're doing, and we're going to get there. We're going to get there, and this is a great opportunity to see where we're at and how much further we got to go. And man, I'm excited about it. So it's going to be a great environment. We've already handled a couple environments I felt like offensively. So we're going to be able to use that experience to help us, how to handle environments, and we got to go compete and learn on the things that we didn't execute well in some of those games, which we didn't tackle well, we didn't protect the football, we didn't set edges. So those same things are where we're going to get tested in this game. So that's what we're focused on.
Eli, every starting quarterback approaches it a little bit differently as far as how he deals with his backups. How have you seen Connor this year kind of helping out, making and cooking, and maybe getting those guys ready to play if that did go right?
Yeah, I mean, I think Connor's been a good teammate. I don't see any issues there, and I think those guys are close, and I see them hanging out and talking and watching film together, so I think they're fine.
Eli, against a defense like this, and even some of the ones you mentioned before, the really elite ones, is getting explosive plays, I know you always want them.
Yeah.
More important because it's hard to have a long, methodical drive against defense like that.
Yeah. I mean, there's all kinds of things that are important in playing good defense or playing against defenses. Yeah, I mean, absolutely, you'd like to find ways to create explosives, but if I could find ways to create explosives, I'd use them in every game. They're hard to come by. So I think the most important thing is you can't put yourself behind the chains through penalties, whether it be pre-snap penalties or fundamental penalties like being out of position and getting holding calls. Those are the things that really put you in bad shape against these kind of defenses, which allow them to pressure you and let guys know what to do. So then they have in their mind before the snap, hey, it's going to be a pass. I'm going to get to my best pass rush move. Or, hey, we're going to, pin the pocket or let the defensive coordinator get into his best blitz package. So those are the things you got to keep the other team off schedule.
Eli, you mentioned you elevated Tyler Beatty to team captain.
Yeah.
Last week. How, when, and where did you announce that to the team?
Yeah, on Tuesday. We announced it to the team on Tuesday, and then Tyler spoke to the team, and they were very receptive, and then I obviously followed it up with a career performance.
Obviously, Georgia's a little bit of a different atmosphere than Vanderbilt. Is there anything you do to prepare for a more difficult environment on the road like that?
I mean, we do have to prepare for crowd noise, and I don't think We've done that. We do that every week, actually, during our blitz period on Wednesday. We prepared for it all fall camp for the Kentucky game and Boston College game. So we've played on the road. We've played, obviously, in environments not quite as big or as loud as what we're fixing to face. You got to learn through tape. Obviously, watching the UAB game and Arkansas game and South Carolina game, all three teams had issues with false starts pre-snap. So that's something that we've got to work on and try to simulate in practice. They do it's not disconcerting signals, but they do a good job of barking a cadence and then the defensive line mimicking like they're moving. It's just up to whether or not that's interpreted as disconcerting signals or whether or not it's a legal movement call. So, we got to handle it.
Coach, after watching the tape, did you see any progress that you're hoping to see out of defense from the Vandy game after the bye week?
I think there's always progress, and then there's always things that you're like, boy, we got to improve it. I was disappointed in some of our tackling, disappointed in some of the quarterback runs that we're able to get out when we clearly had either a dive player or a quarterback player and still weren't able to get that play secured or stopped. But I was proud of some individual efforts. I thought Chris Abrams-Drain really played well. Even on battling through some knick-knack injuries. Obviously, Martez responded well from a bust on an assignment to come back the next drive and end the game with an interception. So I think there's some positive things that occurred, but we're still got work to do on all sides of the ball. I mean, offensively, we're in the red zone twice. We have an interception, and then we have a touchdown called back because of a penalty that doesn't have to occur. Neither one of those penalties really needed to occur. So those are things that both sides of the ball have to improve, not just one.
I think you called Connor Bazelak's injury a soft tissue injury. Could you elaborate any more on what it is, or just curious?
No, I mean, it's a soft tissue injury that I'll have injury report out on Thursday.
I think it was last year after the Georgia game that you talked about closing the gap between some of the Georgias and the Floridas of the division. I guess do you feel like you've closed that gap at all? And what sort of things do you feel like you need to do to get closer to closing that gap?
Well, I think that's a question that has to have a lot of thought and a lot of. We still got a long way to go. All right, but it starts with a foundation, and I feel like we are laying that foundation. I think we are establishing the culture of what we want to be, but I know that it's a process, and it's not always going to happen as quick as you want it to be. I feel like we're recruiting at a really high level, and that you have to recruit 365 days a year. You have to recruit all the time in order to try to improve your roster. But you also have to understand that the players on your roster are who you have, and you got to develop them. And you got to develop them in the weight room. You got to develop them on the football field. You got to develop them as a competitive player. And so really it's a whole person approach. And we're into that process, but we're not there yet. And some of the guys that we're working with, we're still developing. Our players, our culture, our coaches. And so sometimes you hope that jump when closing the gap just happens immediately. Like, I'd like to walk out of here and lose 10 pounds. It doesn't happen like that. I've tried it. I'd get on keto diet and I lose it and then I gain it back. All right. What do I have to do? I've got to maintain discipline over the course of time. And so, I think we're still working in that course of time. I think, excellence is a habit. It's what you repeatedly do, and we're trying to establish that excellence. Are we there yet? No. You can see by the play on the football field that we're not always there. We don't consistently produce excellent habits. I've seen flashes and glimpses of it, but we have to do it consistently and repeatedly. And so when you ask that question, have we closed the gap? Yes and no. Yes and no. And it really starts with me. I've got to be more consistent as a leader. I've got to be more consistent as a competitor. And I've got to be more consistent with getting that out of our football team from top to bottom in this organization. So we're working towards it. I wish it was happening faster, but I do see some positive strides. Even in Saturday's win, I saw some positives and some negatives, but boy, I was sure proud of the way we closed that game out when it was tough. It wasn't going the way you wanted to. I was sure proud of the situational offense we had at the end of the half to hit a Hail Mary right there. I was sure proud of our defense for having the awareness to stop a fake field goal and ending the game with the interception. I was sure proud of an individual competitive effort by Tyler Beatty. So those, to me, show progress. But overall and consistently, our record's not where we all want it to be. We got to continue to recruit and improve our roster. And everybody in our organization has to take a personal responsibility and daily excellence in order for us to achieve what we want to achieve.
Okay, piggybacking off that a little bit, I know a big part of closing the gap is catching up in, things like talent and other resources that programs like Georgia and Alabama might have, but also I know that Missouri maybe is never going to be a clone of those programs. What are maybe things that...
Why not? Why can't it be?
Just from maybe some natural advantages standpoints. I guess, are there things that you look at and say, we have to maybe be able to do this differently or better?
We have to have a mindset that we can be who we want to be. We have to have a mindset that says we can achieve what we want to achieve. I'm never going to settle for second while first is still out there. I don't have to compare myself to other programs. I don't have to compare Missouri to other programs. But I'm not going to sit there and say that we can't achieve what other places have achieved. We can. It's just going to take some time, roll up our sleeves, and get to work. And it's going to take some time. Now, it is what it is. We took this job. We were under probation, NCAA probation, and had to handle it. Had to handle the COVID year. And so we've had to battle through some adversity, but it doesn't mean we're not making progress, and it doesn't mean we can't achieve what we want to achieve. And I'm not going to say we can't be I'm not comparing ourselves to somebody else, but I'm sure as heck not going to say that we can't achieve what we want to achieve in our goals here. So, so I'm not going to change my approach or say we got to do things differently. I'm not trying to do it the way they do it anyway.
Yeah, that's kind of my point. I wasn't saying from an achievement standpoint.
Yeah.
I was more saying from an approach standpoint. So thank you.
Yeah, I'm trying to do it the way we want to do it. I think it's been clear what the vision for our program is, and now it's just a matter of us all getting in line and holding ourselves accountable to doing that daily.
After their game last week in Kirby Smart said something along the lines of nobody can outcoach recruiting, indicating that he's got a ton of talent. Do you have a thought on just big picture, kind of, obviously you've got to have the scheme, you've got to develop guys, but you've also got to get them. How you would rank those or approach those in terms of importance on Saturday?
Obviously, I think Coach Smart is a tremendous football coach. He obviously has done a tremendous job recruiting. You can look at the roster, number of draft picks. He's got really good coaches. So if that's what he said he feels, that's what he said he feels. I can't add any players to my football team for this week. I can't go back and change any recruiting rankings or anything like that. So I don't necessarily subscribe to that theory this Saturday. Like, we're going to go give it the very best shot we can. We're going to develop our team and game plan. We're going to go do the very best we can. And obviously you got to recruit. But when you have your team, you got to do the very best with what you have. So I really don't know the context of what all he was saying and all that there. But big picture, I think we all understand, like, one of the number one things that I've said from the day I've been here is we got to raise the recruiting profile of this university, and we got to recruit in state, and then we've got to go recruit where we have a natural base. That goes along with success.
Eli, when it comes to, I'm not talking about the specific guys, but managing
Yeah.
the quarterback position, over the last decade, you've seen how the game has changed. Do you have to be more sensitive now how you handle decisions, depth chart, things like that, just because of how quickly guys can move around and change their minds and portal and all that?
Wow, that's
different than other positions.
Yes and no. Yes and no. I think the toughest thing about quarterback is usually you just play one. And there's an old saying, if you have two, you don't have any. So you've got that, but you look at the portal, people are jumping in all the time based off of whatever it is their situation is. I don't think you can operate a program based out of fear. I don't think you can operate a program based out of fear of what players on your team are going to do if they don't like the decisions that you make. You have to make decisions that are in the best interest of the team. our number one rule, well, number one is be on time. Number two is the team comes first. And so every decision that we make in regards to who we are and what we're about is what is in the best interest of our football team at the University of Missouri. And I try to operate with that in every decision I make, from personnel changes to players to uniforms, everything. What is going to be the best for our football team? And so I don't really operate in a sense of fear or how is this going to affect one person? How is this going to affect the team? What gives the team the best chance to win? And if our team is not the right fit for somebody in the locker room because of that, then all the power to them, bless them, wish them well on their journey. That's why core value number 4 is enjoy the journey. It's not life is not about a destination. It's about the journey you're on and the lives you can touch while you're on it.
Can you settle the debate then? What is the best uniform for your program? That's an important thing.
I'm still trying to figure out why we had an oval tiger and a block M on a helmet. So, like I said, we got a lot of things we got to keep pushing and working on.
Eli, you talked in the past about not skipping steps. What individually helps your program when you prepare and scout and try and defend the number one team in the country and then go and actually play them? What benefits does that give to your program when you get to see that up close?
You see what it looks like. We all want to be the number one team in the country. They didn't just happen to be the number one team in the country. How long has Coach Smart been the head coach at Georgia? 6 years. I looked at the recruiting rankings. I haven't broke down. He's got more 5-stars on his roster than he does 3-stars. Like, that doesn't happen in a 2-year span. His first year, they were 6-7, 7-6, and then slowly really built that program the way he wants to build it. He's been very consistent in who he is as a coach and how he operates a program. Like I said when I started, he's one of the best coaches in college football for a reason. So when you get a chance to go play that and you get a chance to go match up against it, you get a chance to match up against it, you know. And, last year, I know it was last year, but last year in the first half, we freaking matched up against it. And in the second half, we weren't ready. We didn't finish, you know. So this year, we got to go see. We got to go see what we can do. All right? Now we got to go match up, and we got to stay in the fight longer than we did last year. And that's what I want to see. I want to see us stay in that fight. Get that thing to the fourth quarter, you know. See what happens. We've done it before. We did it with LSU last year. We've been in a fight last week. We were down. You know, we've been down twice this year and found ways to win games. So that's part of growing. That's part of developing as a team and a culture, and you get to see what you're made of.
Coach, is there an approach you want your players to take in a week like this where you play the number one team in the country, where there's that noise that may surround it, whether they're on campus or social media or anything like that?
Yeah, I don't know what noise you're referring to, but we have a sign in our locker room that says ignore the noise. I mean, I'm not worried about Twitter or social media or anybody's opinions outside of this room. Our opinions inside of this building are what we need to do in order to win this football game. And as a competitor, if you're not going to win, why go?
Anything else for Coach?
So is the word to describe it, is it excitement? Is it anxiousness going into this matchup with Georgia? Is that better put it? I'm
excited as crap, man. I mean, I love it. I mean, was Alabama ranked number 1 when we played them last year? They were 2. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Obviously, as a head coach, I've never gone against the number 1 team in the country before, so that's pretty exciting opportunity. And even as assistant, I've been blessed to be a part of some really good football teams and been around some football teams. I don't know if I've gone against number 1 before. So, you kidding me? That's what you do it for. I mean, in all honesty, that was part of the reason why I left Boise State to go to NC State, was to get an opportunity to test myself against the best. I guess maybe against Clemson, where they were the number 1 team in the country when I was at NC State. But, I mean, you go test yourself against the best. Part of the reason that I chose to move on from Appalachian State to come to Mizzou was to play in the SEC, to coach in the SEC, which is to test yourself against the best as a competitor. Like, that's what you want. See where you're at, man. Crud. Why else would you do it? I don't want to live life in the shadows. Go out and see what we got. Take our best shot. Let the chips fall where they may. So, no, I'm not anxious about it at all. See you Saturday at noon.